Welcome to Esoterica, the podcast, where we discuss the obscure, offbeat, and unusual. I'm Chris Schultz.
And I'm Aaron Christian.
Today's episode is brought to us by Tegrity Weed from Tegrity Farms, made with a little Colorado Tegrity, coming soon to a dispensary near you. So, Aaron.
So, Chris.
What do we have for an album today?
Well, as I mentioned last week, we're going to be revisiting somebody from one of our older episodes. Not older, just like, a few weeks ago. And this is Frank Iero and The Patients this time. Last time it was The Future Violence. So it's Frank Iero and The Patients. This album is called Parachutes. It's a 2016 release off of Vagrant Records. And it is one of my favorite albums. Cool thing about Frank Iero that I think we mentioned last time, but I'll bring up again. Every time he puts out a record, or pretty much every time he puts out a record, they change the band name. There's usually like a little different lineup and stuff. So this time it was The Patients. The last album we listened to, which is the most recent one, was The Future Violence. Mm-hmm. And the first one, he pulled like a Paul McCartney kind of thing, just recorded the whole thing, just him, and called it The Cellabration. So it's a cool little thing that he does every time.
Nice.
It's nice. Frank Iero was also in My Chemical Romance. People may remember him from that, may not. I don't know. It's always an interesting side note. But without further ado, I think we should get into the album.
With a little bit of ado.
With a little bit of ado.
So looking at the album cover, it's thematic for the month of... I almost said the month of Halloween.
It is the month that contains Halloween.
That contains Halloween. I think it was John Oliver was showing clips of all these different newscasters talking about the Halloween season. Like, when the hell did this become a season? And it reminded me distinctly of a number of years ago when my son was small. He wanted to be SpongeBob for Halloween. So I went to one of those Spirit Halloween shops, probably, I was going to say around October 10th, and they were sold out. And the guy said to me, straight-faced, "You're a little late in the Halloween season to be getting a costume." And I'm like, it's the 10th of October. There's no season. There's Halloween on the 31st. You're a Halloween store. You have one job, and you failed. So, without further ado.
Let's listen to World Destroyer.
So, elevator pitch, 9 Inch Nails meets The Cure.
Okay, all right.
Sort of that, driving guitar sound.
Yeah.
And the screaming that Trent's known for, but when Frank's not screaming, sort of reminded me of Robert Smith a bit.
All right, I see it. Yeah. This is a very explosive track to start the album, which I always really liked because he just comes out guns blazing. Like, this is it. This is what's going on. I like why he named this album Parachutes. I think it's a good thing to mention, probably in the beginning of the album, is, they're life-saving devices. Mm-hmm. And these are all about points in his life where, something saved his life.
Okay.
It's an interesting concept.
Was this before? Now, I know we talked about the last time with the album that he was involved with a bus crash.
This was a month before that happened.
A month before, okay.
Yeah.
So that album, what was the name of the album we listened
Barriers.
to before? Barriers was post-accident. This is pre.
Yeah, they were actually on tour for this album when they got hit.
Oh, okay.
I was supposed to see them the day they got hit.
I see.
Ironic part of that.
Ironic. Don't you think?
So the next song, they actually bleed into each other, so I cut off the last 2 seconds of the song before so we could hear it transition. It's called Veins, Veins, Veins. There's more exclamation points the more you look at it, so I tried to emphasize that. So let's take a spin.
So, first track really comes in swinging, and we're still swinging.
Yeah, I think this vibe we keep up for like a good 6 minutes of the album, which is interesting because you expect it to stay that way, and then when it does change the dynamic, it has an impact, which I think is a smart way of laying out this album when you think of it that way.
Yeah. It's kind of sad to think that somebody who comes from a family of addicts has that sort of predetermined feeling that it's inescapable. I'm going to be an addict too.
And I think we've talked about this, probably talking about Frank before on this show, where this like predisposition sort of thing and how sad it is that just kind of you accept that that's your fate, you know, assuming that you don't take the steps that, you know, you feel are necessary to avoid that inevitable thing in life.
Yeah, I mean, it can either be a crutch to excuse the fact that you're an addict too, because, you know, I didn't have a choice, or, you know, it could be a fear that no matter what you do, you're going to feel. I get it in a bit. The only thing I've ever been addicted to is cigarettes, which I'm glad it wasn't anything else, because that was a hard thing to kick. But I can say that my first marriage, I stuck that out a lot longer than I should have, because my parents divorced, and statistically, if your parents divorced, you are more likely to have one. So I thought I was fighting against predetermined fate,
Yeah.
when actually, like, the entire universe was telling me, get out. But so I get the thought process. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. The next track on the album is I'm a Mess, and that was the single, or there was a couple, but that was the primary single off this album, or the first single, I should say. I remember this album came out when I was 16, almost 17, so I remember my friend and I saw, like Frank Iero, like My Chemical Romance, we're waiting for this album to come out, and we were so excited. We were looking at the track list, and this single came out, and it was so exciting, such an exciting time. So we're going to throw back to 2016.
So I like, there's a quote from Iero about this song, saying that this song's not about proving anything. This song's about being yourself and being happy with who you are. I think that's awesome. There's just nothing wrong.
No, there isn't.
The same with embracing mediocrity. Not that I'm saying that he's mediocre, but that idea that this is who I am, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Either like it or go away.
Right.
Like, that's at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to.
And honestly, Frank, we're all a mess. Some of us pretend better than others, but nobody knows what they're doing.
This song came out, the whole album came out, and Something Saturday, my band, we've reviewed them, we played this song for the entire school, and we were outside, and somebody had a drone flying over and got a drone video of us playing this song. Oh. So that was junior year. My senior year, I took a media production course, and I had to do a whole thing, like just some part of my life. I needed to like do a documentary style thing about it. So what I did is I took that footage and I synced it over the actual song. So it was this whole montage of this exact song playing in the background of a video of me. It was really interesting what it ended up becoming. But that song, like, throwback to junior year. So really weird time in my life.
Hey, listeners, write in and maybe we can convince Aaron to throw that up on the YouTube channel.
Oh, maybe. The next song is They Wanted Darkness.
Seems like a breakup song.
Yeah, I think it's a relationship-based song.
You know, it's funny. I go back to this from time to time. The first verse. Sometimes we miss old friends until we remember they weren't friends. You see treachery in memories. It always takes a different spin until it happens again and again. The most difficult relationship I ever broke up with was my relationship with cigarettes. And that, like, totally rings true. That was that feeling is, you know, you keep going back to it because you still love it, even though it's bad for you.
Right. From a musical perspective for a moment, you hear that really deep growl kind of sound, maybe not even deep tone-wise, but just like that really distorted, like almost like fuzz sound in a lot of these songs. So Frank Iero mentioned in an interview, he uses this pedal, and I actually also own this pedal. It's called the Swollen Pickle.
Sorry, what?
It's called the Swollen Pickle by the company Way Huge. So the way huge swollen pickle he uses
Okay.
on these. It has an incredible sound, this incredible growl sound that I haven't figured out how to master yet, so I barely use it. But it is a very interesting aspect of his tone, which you'll hear it more throughout the album, especially in the next few songs coming up. So I just want you to know that you're hearing a way huge swollen pickle in this album, as a side note. So our next track is I'll Let You Down.
I don't know if this observation necessarily relates to the song or not, but as we were listening to it, I was staring at the album cover and pondering the significance of it. So it's two ghosts,
Yeah,
holding a baby.
yeah.
Missing parents, absent parents.
I don't know the backstory, to be completely honest. I do like that it's very clearly a picture, I assume of him, that somebody drew ghosts over.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to Google.
Yeah, it's worth noting. I mean, there's something going on there.
Yeah, maybe we'll have an answer.
It's kind of funny. So I've decided, again, in case people don't know, oftentimes we're looking at Genius as we're listening to a song, just as a good place to look at lyrics. I think I'm just not going to pay attention to the annotations anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Draw my own conclusions, because most times they just annoy me. They do mention in the summary of this song that the song's about letting someone down in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And that if people believe you're not going to be successful and you become successful, that's kind of letting them down. That's an interesting point of view. I like that, because I think somebody would have to actively want you to. It's one thing to say, Aaron, you're not going to succeed at this, versus actively not wanting you to succeed at something.
That's horrible.
Yeah, like
It's just a horrible thought.
I'm sure there's people like that.
I guarantee
but
it.
why? It's one thing to shit on somebody, but it's another to like actively. Yeah. So if it did let somebody down because you were successful despite their predictions, then that person needs to check themselves, I guess is what I'm saying.
Great observation, Chris.
And for the record, I wish you all the success. I would be disappointed. I would be let down if you weren't a success.
Oh, I think I'm going to cry.
It's getting mushy in here.
Our next song is called Remedy. It's one of the other singles off of the album. There were 3, so this is the second of the 3.
Isn't that a Black Crowes song?
Remedy?
Yeah.
Might be.
Another thing we'll Google while we're listening to this song. Okay, before we go any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the awesome folks at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way. In fact, it's the way that we make a podcast. Let me explain.
It's free.
There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
And you can make money from your podcast. Best part, no minimum listenership.
Ooh. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
It's so cool. We found the service. We started using it. We're making podcasts.
Yeah, making podcasts, making money, having a good time.
So listen, you want to get you out there. You want to be heard. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thank you.
First song on the album I genuinely enjoyed.
Wow, that's
No,
hurtful. I know, I get what you're saying.
No, I actually I've liked all the songs, but I really enjoyed this. It had a different flow.
I agree. You're gonna hate this next one.
I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, Remedy's a good one. Remedy, it definitely changes up from the rest of the record. So do a few others, especially. This is one of the ones that's definitely slower and slow. Not really slower, but just the vibe changes. So it's kind of cool in that regard.
I kind of like how he plays around with the first line of the chorus too. It was a rarity that I felt emotions. It was a rarity that I sensed emotions. It's a rarity I feel moved without motion. It's kind of I enjoy wordplay.
Wordplay.
Yeah.
So our next track. When this album came out, instead of listening to it in order, I immediately listened to this track first.
I can see why.
Yeah. So this track is called Dear Percocet, I Don't Think We Should See Each Other Anymore.
Sometimes the place you're trying to escape is the only place you fucking belong.
Love it.
That was so sarcastic.
No, I mean, honestly do. In fact, I was reading a quote from Frank himself saying that being addicted to various things can feel like unrequited love, which goes back to what I was saying about cigarettes. It's exactly. If you successfully quit, you mourn it like you mourn a lost relationship.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, again, from a musical perspective, I think this is how we do it on the show. You analyze the content, I analyze the music. It's really interesting. Musicals, as a guitar player, this song is so much fun to play. So much fun. Because you just have those deep notes that you really get to drive a lot of the song with. And that main riff. And this is just it's ironic to look at a song that's really, it's just a fun song to just dance and dance, mosh to at that point.
Yep.
But with such heartbreaking sort of content of your life falling apart.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that the lyrical content of the song is pretty serious stuff, but it's definitely a lighter approach.
But I think if you think about a song like this as like how your brain would try and decipher the situation that you're in, because you might be thinking of something completely serious or be kind of depressed in a sense, but your mind is going completely insane most of the time if you're dealing with these things, because it's the amount of stress, and the stress is just building up on top of each other.
Yeah.
So this could be a good personification of what's going on inside.
And I think if you look at the title of the song too, it's sort of an anthem. This is it's empowering. It's not I'm an addict and I suffer from it. It's hey, I think we need to call it quits.
Yeah, and it's like what a really bad person would say to someone to break up with them.
I don't think we should see each other anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's a nice way to break up with somebody.
But, Percocets are the big C word, so if you're going to break up with perks, you don't need to be nice about it.
So our next track is a completely different vibe. It is called Miss Me, which I think is an ironic follow-up to telling Percocet to go away.
I know I've loved you all my life. I swear I loved you all along. From the first time I laid out till the day I die. I know I'm liberty and the time. If you cross my heart, I hope to die.
That was a genuinely sweet song.
It was.
I like that. And it's feels very different from the rest of the album.
Going forward, I think that the rest of the album kind of keeps this sort of tone. It does get a little heavier, but I like how we come out guns blazing in the beginning and we kind of get that energy out and that frustration out of whatever it may be for every subject matter. And then we start to kind of tone it back and like kind of reel ourselves back in, which is a cool dynamic. I love it.
And who doesn't want somebody to miss them? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, wanting someone to be sad when
I
you're
don't
gone.
think it's selfish to want people to care.
No, you want to make a dent on the world, and most of the time that dent is in somebody's psyche. That's how we know we existed.
Right.
I hope a lot of people are sad when I die.
I'll be cheering.
I want a parade, man. I want to.
I want a parade. Oh, Chris.
Yeah.
So our next track is called Oceans. This was the third single on the album.
Nice use of metaphors.
Yeah, I think the whole song is like a nice metaphor for just like drowning, essentially.
And, you know, let's be honest. As far as being an artist, I think maybe particularly in music, the worst of you is the best of you. Like artistically, like that inner conflict is where a lot of material comes from.
Right.
I think we've all seen it with. I always use Pink Floyd as an example. Like the butting of heads between Roger and Dave is what really gives that band its sound.
Right.
And since the band broke up, like each part is just that part missing the other part.
Yeah, exactly. I have to say my favorite part of the song is against the tide and undertow that drag me down, so low beneath the foam, I can't feel the sun burn my eyes.
Yeah, that visual really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Like I'm picturing, have you ever sat like at the bottom of a pool and looked up and it's like the light's diffused enough that you can just
Look right back up.
It's peaceful down there.
Yeah. Everything's quiet.
One of the things that really struck me, I remember watching a documentary about the tsunami in, was it 2006, the one right after Christmas?
Oh, Boxing Day 2004. That was down in like India.
Yes.
Area. Yeah.
And there
Sri
was,
Lanka, that's what it was.
there was a couple that was out on a boat scuba diving, and the tsunami passed them, and they said the boat only went up, like the water at that point only went up like an inch or two. And I think one of them was on the boat and barely noticed anything happen, and the other was pretty far down scuba diving and was like knocked around by the wave, but that same wave that didn't have much impact out there, like when it got into shore,
Yeah.
wrecked shit. So
Wow. So our next track.
yes, want to.
Another same day when the album came out, I listened to Dear Percocet, followed by The Resurrectionist or An Existential Crisis in C sharp.
So, note to listeners, if you want Aaron to listen to your song, give it a long title.
A long, interesting title.
Yes, grab his attention.
Now it's out of the world. I found us. No, I'm not sure if I'm hurt by anyone. Maybe I found better ways. Hide the truth that I'm becoming.
That is indeed an existential crisis.
Yeah. I always liked this song. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I like it. I like a lot of what he's saying in here.
Yeah, what's the line? If I can find it. So I watch the color drain out of my face on, yeah. You know, obviously that's a very standard statement, but, you know, I just like the visual of, you know, seeing that ghost complex.
Yeah.
Or complexion, I should say, not complex, show up on somebody. And I think, you know, in a way that kind of relates to the album cover.
Yeah, it does. I was kind of stuck on the line. All you ask is, can I try and smile? All I said is, I thought I was. Like, I've had that problem before. My face is not as emotive. Like, I'm a pretty emotional guy. I feel things. But and it's not because I've got a poker face, but I just, a lot of times when I think things are funny, I don't lol.
Yeah. And this whole, you know, like the first verse here, all you asked is, do I feel better now? All I said is, do I have a choice? Maybe I'll find better ways to give a damn about bettering myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you better now? I don't really have a choice, do I? I have to be better now.
I know, right?
You know, and I get that like you just get to a point where like you really no other option. And then it's like sometimes you have to be better for others.
Yeah. It's an interesting conundrum about the human condition that we seem to have these existential crises in our 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
When that's just really the beginning of your life. Like, how many 60 or 70-year-olds are going through that? Is it we just reach a point where we don't care anymore, or you accept who you are? But I feel bad for the people that don't make it through those crises
Yeah.
because you got a whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it stems from the expectation of where you are in your life to where you either want to be or where others expect you to be. You know,
Yeah.
whether on your own or from external factors. Like, you know, that is scary in and of itself to get your life to that white picket fence per se. That's lifestyle you might have in mind.
Yeah, and to be honest, as somebody who did not achieve the heights that were predicted of them at an early age, there's a lot of stress on you when you're getting out of high school and going into college to find yourself and find your direction and pick your career. But there's a certain point, probably in your 30s, that if you don't reach that level of success, like, people stop expecting it of you
Yeah.
and you can coast. Like, I'm happy. I didn't do all the great things that everybody thought I was going to do, that I thought I was going to do, but I'm satisfied with my life. It's probably, as I often said, like, being a movie maker, it's probably a better thing for the world that I didn't make all the movies that my crazy head thinks of. So you can all thank me.
I still want that film from Murder Ballads.
Oh yeah.
So our next track, our penultimate track, is called Viva Indifference.
Viva Indifference.
So let's break down the title for a second. Viva. Think of viva, like Spanish, vivir, that means to live.
Yeah.
So life.
Long
Indifference.
Long live indifference.
Yeah.
So it's a nice thought that life would be simpler if we didn't care or become impassioned by things.
Mm-hmm.
However, at least from my perspective, if you look at the world today, this is what happens when people stop caring.
Yep.
We're in a bad place. Make America okay again.
Subtle plug.
Yeah, we get some T-shirts.
Yeah, they say that.
They do. Yeah, like I get that. It makes sense.
It does. It does make sense.
Wouldn't life be so much easier?
It would be if we just didn't care.
And I love how he ends the song with, you know, I love myself, I love my life, I accept myself, and it's all your fault. You made me care. You made, you know. So I think there's a lot of irony in this song, which is kind of cool.
So our last track on the album is called 9/6/15, which I'm 99% sure is a date that is significant in this song, but I just cannot remember. But I'm pretty sure it is
the date that Frank's grandfather died.
All right, yes, that was it. I knew it was significant. So let's listen to that.
It's really kind of a sweet song.
Yeah, it is.
He misses his grandpa. And it's interesting. I'm reading here the Gerard Way from
My Chemical Romance, the lead singer. Yeah.
You mentioned that Frank's grandfather came to every single show that he possibly could to see his grandson play, which is
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's really cool.
Um,
And I can see why this song is last on the album. Like,
Right.
You wouldn't want to start with it. I would presume that this was not easy for Frank to write or record.
I'm sure. I think so. They talk about an interview he had with Alternative Press, and he said he couldn't write a record called Parachutes, these life-changing or life-saving devices, without a song about his grandfather, which I think is really sweet.
Yeah.
So we're done with the album. I'm going to play one more song.
Oh.
And they had an EP that came out right after. I think it was a year after this. There's a few songs on there. Most of them are repeats, but this one's not, and it's only like a minute and a half long. And I think it's a nice addition to this vibe. So we'll listen to that, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, Frank, tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, and that's just, it's kind of like Dear Percocet. Like, it's a short, just fun song, burst of energy, and then done.
Yeah. I don't have the strength to act cool. I just want to be what I want to be. I totally get that. So here's a question.
Here's an answer.
Well, I don't know if you have an answer because so personally, there's a lot of different styles that I like. Like I like bowling shirts, Western stuff.
I didn't think you were going this route with that.
3-piece suits from the 20s. There's a lot of different styles out there, but I've never been a person who could like commit to one particular style. Like you've seen people who are like rockabilly people, and that's all they wear.
Yeah.
Like how? Right? I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy. There's stuff that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a few Western style shirts. I have a few bowling shirts, and I may wear them on occasion. But like committing to that thing, that kind of to me is that like the effort it takes to be cool. I've never had. How do you do it?
As a side note, are you going to wear that bowling shirt when we go bowling? In that tournament that we talked about the other day?
I mean, it's an appropriate place to wear a bowling shirt to actually go bowling.
I thought that'd be funny. So that's Frank Iero and the Patience, essentially. That's like pretty much everything they put out as them, which was interesting. Side note, that last song, No Fun Club, is off of Keep the Coffins Coming, which is an EP they put out in 2017. So a year after Parachutes came out, but still same group, all that jazz. So that's Parachutes. That's that. What are we looking at coming up, Mr. Christopher?
So our next episode, so Aaron and I go to a lot of work plotting out our season. And season 2 has already seen a number of changes because we sort of reconfigured what we were planning on doing to make our lives easier. So we've interrupted that once again. Next week we have a special surprise. We have a in-studio guest, a singer-songwriter from Winnipeg, Uncle Sinner, who will be going through his album of Death Gospel. Dark Country.
Love it.
Yeah, that's kind of my jam.
That's what you listen to exclusively?
That's it. Yeah, actually, I don't have a jam, but my musical jam is sort of like my taste in clothes. It's all over the map.
It's like bowling shirts and Western style shirts.
Right? Things that don't necessarily go together.
Bowling music. So I think that just about wraps it up for today. Don't forget to check out esotericathepodcast.com for all updates on episodes and stuff, especially merchandise. Our Teespring is up and running, so you can buy stuff off of there. We also just have t-shirts that you can buy from us, which are a little bit cheaper than the Teespring ones. So
they're limited edition first run, so check them out. And when's this episode coming? Oh, get out and vote. Let's get political for a moment. Doesn't matter who you vote for. Just get out and vote.
yeah, just vote.
Vote, please. Vote. That's our PSA for the day.
Until next time.
Stay esoteric.